Is it easy to get into the gaming industry?
That's a big question. Do you want me to answer as well? It's hard. I think it's hard to get into, from my point of view, for media and writing about games. It's not that hard to write about games and to get people to publish you, but it's much harder to get people to pay you to do it. But it can be done. It's like it's a case of luck and good ideas and hard work, and you can make progress. I've progressed. My career has changed in ways I never would have fathomed that I could have. What about you guys? Easy or hard to break into the...
It depends. I'm going to give that answer for pretty much every question, by the way. It's a good point you made, though. It is more important to focus on a career than a specific job. And I don't know what, in particular you might want to do in the games industry. So if you want to be a games journalist, it's going to be pretty tough. It's not easy. A lot of editors don't rate games at the moment. Yeah,
but
and
that's changing.
There's a lot of people out there that want to be games journalists as well, which is huge. And if you want to be a games programmer, then there's loads of companies hiring. Being good is a very big issue, but if you're actually good enough, then you will get a job. If you want to, start your own games company and change the world, then that's, next to impossible, or at least very, very tough. I mean, the success the guys have had shouldn't be underrated by any means.
I think one of the problems with the games industry in Ireland at the moment is it is very dominated by a lot of small companies like ourselves who, unfortunately, we don't have that much money. So it's difficult to hire really, really good people or hire people on very good wages. So what we tend to do is when we're taking staff in is we bring them in on an internship for a few months, which is basically little to no pay, for them to learn and show that they're good enough to continue learning, at which point we'd hire them full time. And I think that's a route that people need to be open to if they want to get into the games industry, is you have to go in and prove yourself, because there isn't that much money. It's certainly in the small companies in Ireland. The bigger companies, yes, there is. And then once you go outside Ireland, the sky's the limit. I mean, one of our developers recently left 2 weeks ago and went to San Francisco to work for a games company. He spent less than a year with us, and the job he before he even went to San Francisco, he had multiple offers, and the job he took was twice what we were paying him. So there is, certainly in the States and outside of Ireland, there is a lot of money to be made, but because the industry is so small at the moment here and dominated by small companies, it can be tough to get in, and you need to kind of be open to going in at the bottom and proving yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I remember I was talking to someone who's in charge of hiring programmers for a relatively large, pretty big company in Ireland, and they said they had these openings for programmers for ages. And I said, why? Is there a shortage of programmers? And they said, no, there's a shortage of good programmers, which is important. And there's a lot of people out there looking for jobs, and you do need to put yourself above the rest. But if you do, and you just want a job as a software developer, you will get one.
There is an old expression: the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
So yeah, the more you chip away, the
important
better
as
your
well.
odds are.
What's the stages of making a game?
It starts with an idea, I guess.
Yeah, I'll run quickly through what we used to do. Well, a rough look at what we used to do in Nevermind games. I suppose it depends hugely on the type of game you're making, on all that. But we used to start with about 20 ideas, most of which were completely rubbish. And making prototypes, you mentioned it earlier, is really, really important, because some games on paper look fantastic, and then you make kind of a rough version of them, sort of a minimal viable product, and they're terrible and they're just not fun to play. So it goes from having all those ideas to boiling them down until eventually you have a prototype of something that seems like it would be fun, that seems like a lot of people would play it. The more we made games, the more we focused on user testing at the start, and try to get focus groups together to see what people actually want to play and if they enjoy it, because the opinion of the people coming up with the game isn't always something that'll stand up in the market. And then from there, As we made games as well, and as we went along at Nevermind Games, we put every single time we made a game, we put more and more time into planning and structuring how the game was going to be made, both in terms of the game itself and how the code was going to be structured and stuff like that. By the time I left, that section was pretty much the same length of time as development. And then on the end, you have your bug fixing and stuff like that. And then obviously, that's just your development side. I mean, somewhere halfway through development, your marketing engine has to kick in, especially if you're a big company, and you have to convince people to want to buy the game before it comes out.
Is it hard for you guys to make money with your job?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want me to answer first? Yeah, I've had some really good months and some really bad months, and that's the only bad thing about a creative job. And I know other people who are writers and actors and musicians and stuff, and I would consider game development a creative job as well. So when it's going well, it's the best job in the world. Confucius said, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I believe that. It doesn't feel like work when it's going well. But when it's not going well, it can be hard because you're hustling, looking for work and trying to convince people to pay you and give you work. And that's just from my industry. It's probably the same in yours, right?
Yeah. I suppose to come at it again, if you're looking for a job as a software developer, I've seen companies in Dublin recently offer or look to take on software developers with some experience, and one of the salaries I saw was about 25k a year, and that was to take on a developer. If you look at the big companies like Google and Microsoft and stuff, you'll get a bit more and stuff like that, but the starting wage, I know PopCap took on programmers, as far as I know, for about 25k a year before they pulled out of here. So if you're looking for a job as a software developer, that's sort of the scope you're looking at. If you want to do it yourself and release your own game, then it's a whole lot harder. Conor, you'd probably be good to come in there.
Yeah, from our side of things, we started out making our own games and releasing those, which we were quite lucky in that we were early in the App Store when it was easier to make money. So our first couple of games did make money and made good money back then. And pretty much everything we've released ourselves since then has not made money at all, not even close to making money. But where the revenue comes into Redwind now is dealing with companies like Paddy Power and Heineken and these other big brands who need games built that we have that expertise for them. Then we funnel that money back into creating our own original ideas. So it's a balancing act for us. That basically means at the end of it, we don't really make much money. We break even, but the hope is the more we go down this path, the more likely we are to make a game ourselves that will really take off.